Okay, this is day 95 of a teacher sabbatical, and I'm currently again walking around Daegu town, old town, and this is the so-called culture alley, modern culture alley, and this is Sangdon-so's old house. Sangdon-so was the initiator of the national debt repayment movement, which began in 1907. That was about the time when the Japanese lent about 13 million won to the Korean government to make them sort of dependent, and the Koreans had to actually mortgage their income, their tax income of a whole year. 13 million won at the time equaled 1 year of tax receipts of the Korean government, of the whole of Korea. So this is the money the Japanese lent to Korea, and this national debt repayment or redemption movement began in 1907 in the house of Sangdon-so, who had the idea of this movement, and it spread rapidly, and it collected money among all classes and professions of Korea: beggars, rickshaw drivers, and all kinds of professions. And they actually came up with almost 200,000 won, which they collected. People stopped smoking, people stopped drinking, even the emperor stopped smoking for a while. And there were committees in every town of Korea, and somehow they managed to seriously collect money, and it was the first national awareness movement, you might say. Unfortunately, they didn't get all the money, and the money they got, they sort of was confiscated by the Japanese. After they noticed that they couldn't go through with it, they actually tried to acquire land to build schools, found schools to educate the people in the national independent spirit, and even that was thwarted by the Japanese, who at the time, even before Korea was a colony, had a treaty of a protectorate. So Korea was a Japanese protectorate before it actually became a full-fledged colony. And the Governor General who was installed, he sort of put an end to the movement, and he didn't allow the movement to acquire land and found schools. So the money somehow went to the Japanese, which it should have, but not this way. Anyway, it was a movement which failed, basically, which didn't reach its purpose, but still it was the first massive movement of Korean identity and nationalist and independent spirit. So this home of Sangdon-so was actually the point, or the place where they came up with the idea, and I think he was the head of this national committee organizing this national debt redemption movement. So he was born in 1850 and lived until 1913, 63. And this is his house, which is very like many other houses of the time. So this is the early 1900s, the late 1800s. It wasn't just one house; it was like 3 houses, small houses. I don't know how big this family was, but anyway, nice shoes. That's him, probably at a later age, almost before his death. That's one of the rooms, his hat, and his clothes, I think. Yep. So many of the old houses, traditional Hanok houses, that's what probably was the altar of the predecessors. Yeah, many of the old houses, they were like little fortresses, several houses, and often they had men's quarters and women's quarters. And of course they had their kimchi preparation. Okay, so this is the house of Sangdon. And all the documents related to the national debt redemption movement actually were inscribed in the UNESCO Memory of the World collection in 2017. Yep. So with this painting they suggest that he was at the forefront of the national independent movement. And there's another home right next to it, Sanghwaili. He used to be a very famous poet. He was called, or is called, Poet of the National Resistance. He was born in 1901 and only lived until he became 42. And he is considered to be one of the most important figures of Korean modern poetry, because he wrote metaphorical poems expressing people's grief, sadness, and loss during the Japanese occupation of Korea, which lasted from 1910 but began earlier, basically as a protector, from 1910 until 1945. And so he was a very always dearly remembered. And this is the place where he lived during his last 3 years, from 1939 until 1943. Kimchi preparation. Yep, that's where he wrote his poems. Yep. I like the little baby shoes. Not sure whether they already had television sets in 1940, 43, I think. Television became widespread in the 50s, I think. But anyway, that was the kitchen, I guess. Yep. And that was Mr. Lee Sanghwa. There's also like a tombstone. Maybe he's buried here, but who knows? And there's the kimchi, as it should be. Okay. Yep. There's the old Daegu station. And some people of the independence movement, and Mr. movement of the debt redemption is amongst them. Yep. I think that's the poet. And a rickshaw. which was widely used in the maybe until after the war, but in the 1920s, there were several rickshaws in front of Daegu main station. Okay, friends and family, take care. See you later. Bye bye.